When I think about queer justice right now, I think about things like healthcare, for instance, right? We're fighting so many battles around preserving access to healthcare for queer people, for trans people. We need Medicare for all. We need universal healthcare for people, right? And so I think fighting for universal programs that benefit the working class, if you free up resources for people, they can live better lives. So fighting for that, I think, is really, I think that's the priority.
Hello, and welcome to Power Beyond Pride, a queer change-making podcast, bringing you voices and ideas from across our fierce and fabulous spectrum to transform our world. I'm your co-host, Daniel, author, poet, and former milk carton missing person.
And I am your co-host, Mattie Bynum, the hostess with the mostest, TV personality, lover of all things in God. In this episode, we are talking to the writer, housing justice advocate, and anti-genocide activist, Miguel Camnitzer. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Camnitzer sounds like you're a transformer. It's amazing.
I kind of like it.
As a writer, Miguel pens fiction and poetry and earned an MFA from Hamline University in St. Paul, Minnesota. His degree focused on writing for children and young adults. His anti-genocide activism with Jewish Voices for Peace LA put him in the public eye, and his advocacy for the unhoused has led him to journalistic pieces in publications like the Los Angeles Public Press, and most recently on Knock LA.
And Miguel also grew up in the New York City area, but moved to the Los Angeles in 2009 to pursue a career in television. Eventually, he realized it was a really bad fit and quit to go back to school for writing. That sound about right, Miguel?
That sounds exactly right.
The good thing about you going back to school for writing, though, it opened up a lot of space for you in your life to be able to be political and get involved. So, yet again, I'll say it one more time. We welcome you to our show, Miguel. We're glad to have you here. I am going to jump right in and ask the first question, if you don't mind. And so I know that you do a lot of work with housing and the unhoused and advocacy and services. How does this also relate to the LGBT communities, and how are we being impacted by housing and not housing at the same time?
It's a really good question. Well, we know in Los Angeles, and I think across the country, that LGBTQ plus people are overrepresented among unhoused populations. And I wouldn't be able to cite the exact statistics for you, but queer youth in particular are overrepresented in homelessness. And so in LA, I just can say anecdotally, I meet lots of queer and trans people who live on the street. And I know that they are more vulnerable to police violence, to all sorts of oppressive, state violence. And the city doesn't really do much for them. So one example would be the LGBT Center in Hollywood, which is a world famous and very well resourced center providing services to all sorts of LGBTQ plus community members, but also unhoused people as well. The irony there is that they work with city council members in Los Angeles to, secure funding, to state policy. And that city council is the same one that sweeps encampments on a daily basis. And so there are encampments right around the LGBT Center in Hollywood. And those encampments are populated by a lot of queer youth because they go there thinking that they'll be safer there than in other parts of the city. But they would be targeted really aggressively by police and sanitation sweeps. And the center didn't do anything to stop that. And to make it even more ironic, the city council member of that district that the center is located in Hollywood for a long time was this man, Mitch O'Farrell, who's also gay. And he didn't care about the poor queer youth in his district. And so basically, I'm just saying that when it comes to LGBTQ plus policy around housing in places like Los Angeles that are famous for being these liberal bastions, it's really class divided. And really, when it comes to people in power, social justice only matters to those who have money. And if you're poor, you're left out of the equation entirely. So that's been really eye-opening for me to live in a place like Los Angeles and just see how liberal and even queer politicians ignore poor queer people.
You may not be able to answer this, and it's more of an opinionistic question, but is there not space to, because I don't understand, like, if people are living in encampment and they are civilized and doing their thing, why are the cities and stuff sweeping these areas? Because I don't see an issue with it. So if we're not providing actual housing for them, at least they're providing a safe community for themselves. What is the big issue?
Right. Well, so, I mean, the short answer is capitalism.
The great evil.
But, there's layers to this. I think first and foremost, poverty, visible poverty in public space is an impediment to gentrification, to investment, to business and profits, right? In a city like Los Angeles, developers and real estate interests, business interests in general, run the city because they're the ones financing campaigns. And there's a real incentive, a monetary incentive to eliminate visible signs of poverty, which are seen to perhaps decrease property values for business. Another layer is that NIMBYs being not in my backyard, housed people who have a certain vision of the city that they want to live in that does not include any visible poverty, are very vocal with their elected representatives about wanting not to see poor people on their street, right? And they'll use things like mental health crises, drug use as reasons to criminalize the people that are living outside. And then another layer is that there isn't enough housing. Our housing policy is terrible. In this city, across California and across the country, this is pretty ubiquitous, this kind of terrible housing policy, where we will build endless market rate housing under the idea that, like, if you build enough market rate housing, then if there's enough supply, then rents will go down. And there's just not evidence to support that. And we won't build public housing. We build very little supportive housing. What we do build is quote unquote affordable housing, right? Which is affordable to whom and by what metric, right? It's never actually cheap enough. And it's always mixed income. So you'll have a market rate building with luxury prices, and then a certain number of units will be reserved as affordable, but it's never actually cheap enough. And a lot of times, even the regulations around how many units are affordable are time limited. So you get a developer, right, a private developer to build some huge building, and they'll promise a certain amount of affordable housing, but maybe only for a certain number of years, right? And then the rest of it can go market rate after that. So every year we keep losing affordable housing units because those covenants expire. Anyway, not enough housing, plenty of incentive for criminalization, and just an ideology around blaming the individual, right? Poor people, if you're poor, it's your fault. If you use drugs, it's your fault. If you have a mental health struggle, it's your fault. No structural or systemic analysis is needed, right?
Yeah, I want to kind of pull on that a little bit, because I think maybe there's become a little bit, I do think this has to do with capital and kind of money trail, how LGBTQ organizations and maybe even the movement in general has kind of lost its moral compass a little bit, and that we've become enamored by the access that we've been able to access. Kind of the epitome in a way was marriage equality, and they thought it was some kind of panacea to kind of resolve some of the other economic and racialized issues that obviously it didn't and hasn't. And of course now there's the specter of losing even marriage equality. What do you think is kind of what would be from your perspective, a kind of the interventions that like the LGBTQ organization or movements need to kind of embrace, reconfigure themselves in order to kind of have a more thoughtful kind of analysis and, to move forward in a way that actually is liberatory and inclusive across generations and economic tiers, we'll say.
Yeah. Ooh, it's a big question.
It is. I'm sorry, but yeah.
It's a really good one. I think the answer lies in working class politics, right? What we saw during the fight for marriage equality was a lot of more wealthy queer people who saw that they could gain access to a heteronormative world if they could get marriage equality. And they left a lot of other sectors of the movement behind when they prioritized that. And so there was really a class divide, I think, in that struggle. And it sucked a lot of energy out of the movement. I think right now, when I think about queer justice right now, I think about things like healthcare, for instance, right? We're fighting so many battles around preserving access to healthcare for queer people, for trans people. We need Medicare for all. We need universal healthcare for people, right? That's a universal program that will absolutely benefit queer people overall. And so I think fighting for universal programs that benefit the working class, housing for all, healthcare for all, anything that alleviates debt, all these things that disproportionately affect marginalized people of all kinds, right? If you free up resources for people, they can live better lives. And in a capitalist system like we have, where people need to hoard wealth, the people left behind are going to be queer people, BIPOC people. So fighting for that, I think, I think that's the priority.
In a way, we've kind of fallen into a trap of kind of our own siloed movement, not thinking about these intersections, right? We just need to watch ourselves, watch for our own thing, which perhaps is a little bit of a testament to kind of the myopia of our politics nationally, right?
Well, it's scarcity mindset, right? If you're clawing for your little piece of justice, if you're not mindful, if you're not thinking intersectionally, you can be working at odds with other people who are also fighting for justice. And you could be allies in that. You could be comrades in that. But instead, you're at odds with one another. And that makes the overall movement for liberation weaker.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break here. And when we get back in a minute, we'll continue our conversation with Miguel Camnitzer, where we'll speak about his work as an anti-genocide, Palestinian liberation, anti-Zionist Jewish American, and more on the other side of this break.
All right, welcome back to this episode of Power Beyond Pride, a queer change-making podcast. And I, your co-host, Mattie Bynum, I'm sitting here with the beautiful activist and writer, Mr. Miguel Camnitzer. Well, Miguel, I love the fact that you joined the Jewish Voice for Peace and back here recently in 2023. Can you give us a little background about what that organization is and does?
Sure. So Jewish Voice for Peace, it's a US-based organization that's the largest progressive anti-Zionist Jewish organization in the world, fighting for Palestinian liberation more broadly, and certainly for the last year and a half, fighting specifically to end the genocide in Gaza. There's chapters and pods across the country. I'm in the Los Angeles chapter, which had existed for a long time, but really changed quite dramatically after October 7th, 2023. There was a huge influx of new members, including myself. And so we've been building this new infrastructure to hold all of this energy and all these new members, and working locally on a variety of efforts, and then connecting with the national strategy, which I can talk more about. But it's been a challenging and rewarding experience for me, and ties into my own family history, which I can also talk about.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about kind of how your history, familial, your personal identities, and kind of how is that informed and kind of maybe given fervor and urgency to kind of the work that you're doing?
So my father's side of the family are Holocaust survivors. My father is going to turn 88 this year, and he was born in Germany. His family's Jewish, and his parents fled with him when he was an infant in early 1939. And the only place they could get a visa was Uruguay. So they moved to Montevideo, and he grew up there. And Spanish was more or less his first language. He spoke some German at home with his parents, but he very much to this day identifies as Uruguayan, as Latin American. It's a point of pride for him. He's also very secular. He's an atheist. He was bar mitzvahed as a child, but was never practicing as an adult. And my mom is not Jewish, so I grew up in a blended family. So Judaism for me as a child was something that was rooted in the stories of their escape, but not something that was rooted in ritual or tradition or faith. And that combined with the fact that I actually grew up in a very Jewish suburb of New York City. So everyone around me was much more, honestly, just much more Jewish than me. So I just felt I didn't really identify as Jewish. I got to be honest with you. I just didn't. And I understood our roots in the Holocaust, that epic story that was kind of like a touchstone for me and my family. But it just, maybe it's back to that imposter syndrome we were joking about earlier, but I just felt like, how do I identify as Jewish when I'm not practicing? We celebrated Christmas because I had half siblings who weren't Jewish, and they were celebrating Christmas, and we just wanted to be a unified family. So we just kind of settled on that. And so anyway, that's sort of the background. And then October 7th happens. And here we have a genocide unfolding, live streamed on our phones, the most horrific violence I've ever seen in my life. Every day, every time I picked up my phone. And it's all being done in the name of my family, more or less. And I remember on October 8th, I was hanging out with some friends of mine, an older lesbian couple, both Jewish, both affiliated with Jewish Voice for Peace, which I knew a tiny bit about this organization, but not a lot. And we were having lunch, and they were like, oh, there's this Jewish Voice for Peace national call, like an emergency call to talk about what happened yesterday. And so we got to go. And I was like, what is that? Tell me more. Can I join this? And so I rushed home and got on this Zoom, and was just immediately blown away by the way that they could hold the intense pain of what had happened and all the complicated emotions that would arise from that, with incredibly clear-headed strategic thinking about what needed to happen next. And I'd already done a lot of political organizing in other spaces, but there was something so impressive about the way they framed everything, even in a time of crisis. And so I was just really inspired. So I joined the organization, and I talked to my father around that time, and I was sort of explaining how I was feeling. And my dad is an artist and an educator and very political. He has never been shy to express his opinion. And I was talking to him about the genocide. This must have been in maybe December of 2023. And he was just like, for the first time in my life, I feel like I don't have a voice. He was like, I don't know what to say. I am just struck with this feeling that, I don't remember the exact words, but something along the lines of like, all of those people died for nothing, meaning that the Holocaust didn't give us the lessons that it was supposed to give us. And that even he, with all his political awareness, maybe naively, so many of us did, felt like those lessons had actually been learned. That never again really meant never again. And yet we're being confronted with the fact that no, those lessons were not learned. Even among your general liberal public in this country, those lessons were not actually learned. And he didn't know what to do. And I think in that conversation, I just felt even more motivated to be like, okay, if someone like my dad doesn't know how to take action, he doesn't know how to speak to this issue right now, it's too painful, it's just turning our worlds upside down, then I need to do something. And yeah, I don't know. It's been really hard. It's been really hard to see all of our efforts. We're trying really, really hard, everything we can here in the US to dismantle the US support for this genocide, which we think is critical for allowing the state of Israel to continue what it's doing. We don't think that it could continue what it's doing without billions of dollars of US monetary support and all of the weapons packages that keep being sent and all of like the ideological support that our political establishment gives Israel. So if we can attack that, if we can tear that down, maybe we can make an impact and begin to end what's happening. But our efforts, maybe they're making some progress, but things just keep getting worse. And it's really hard to maintain hope in this environment. And that's what I'm personally working on right now, is how to stay hopeful.
I definitely understand. And I do want to circle back just a little bit too while we're on this topic. In this political climate that we're in and everything going on, what are some of the challenges that Jewish Voice for Peace is having to deal with as they are trying to be peaceful, but also at the same time be proactive and get stuff done with everything going on?
Oof. So, well, one challenge is that under the Trump administration, we're facing unprecedented repression of our movement.
Mm.
So our ability to take public space, to speak on the issues, to engage in civil disobedience, to engage even in peaceful protest is being criminalized really aggressively. And for our Palestinian comrades in this movement, they're being specifically targeted, in some cases abducted and disappeared in just ways that are just so chilling. So we're operating in this environment that is pretty terrifying, to be honest. We're also seeing that a year and a half of public pressure, mounting evidence, international consensus that what's happening is a violation of countless international laws and also just ethically and morally horrific. The Democratic Party establishment is not shifting on this issue in a meaningful way. Right? We have some representatives that are on the right side of this, and we keep pushing to grow those numbers. But a lot of people are just really stuck in their ways. And I think a lot of that is financial, right? There's a lot of lobbying and a lot of campaign money being directed towards people who support Zionism and support Israel. So yeah, the challenges are really hard. I mean, the overall strategy, as I understand it, for the national organization is like this kind of 3-pillar strategy. So viewing the fact that the US support of the state of Israel is critical for the occupation and apartheid, ethnic cleansing and genocide to continue. We look at it, there's like a political pillar, financial pillar, and a narrative pillar. Right? And so the financial would be all of the money that's going in and out of politics, all the money that's flowing to Israel, all of the weapons that are flowing to Israel. The narrative is probably the one that resonates for me, which is just the idea that like so many American Jews are raised to believe that Israel is the thing. It's the backup plan, right? It's the thing that will keep us safe in the worst case scenario. And for a lot of American Jews, Israel is really foundational to their self-identity as being Jewish, as being an American Jew. So it's really hard to dislodge them of that or to get them to see that what they've been taught perhaps is a lie. And that actually what Israel is doing is not keeping any of us safe. It's actually endangering all of us. And so that's one of the reasons why it was really important to me to like stand up and be a visible anti-Zionist Jew, because if there's enough of us speaking out and saying, hey, Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is actually betrayal of our values. Then all of the entities, all of the people in power that are trying to sell us this story that we must support Israel to ensure Jewish safety, that we can like break that apart and that can no longer help support what's happening. And I think we made some inroads in that, but there's a lot more work to be done.
100%. We can definitely keep on going. We're going to take a quick short break here. I don't know why I said quick and short there, but we'll take a quick break. And when we get back, I'd love to talk a little bit about hope, because we need that. And get to know a little bit more Miguel, especially as a writer. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. We are here again with Miguel Camnitzer. And before, let's take a moment to have a little bit of, well, I don't know, maybe something uplifting. I really love to know, like, you know, I'm like you, I probably like get on my phone and every day, and like the first thing I see is like dismembered children. So how are you able to kind of like maintain sanity, if not hope? What are your ways to kind of remain human, keep your humanity intact?
That's a good question. A couple of things come to mind. One is my partner, Michael, who I've been with since college. So we're going to celebrate our 25th anniversary this year.
Ooh. Hey, Michael.
And
I know him, of course.
Yes, of course. And so that is really grounding for me. When I'm having a tough time, he knows how to be helpful. He knows how to talk me through it. And so that's one thing. I've an amazing therapist who really has just made all the difference in the last couple of years through everything. And so that helps a lot. And then in terms of just like life beyond organizing and activism, I like two very polar opposite things. One is I like to go out into the desert. We have a place out in the desert that's very rural and peaceful. And I like to try to garden out there, which is really challenging because it's very hot and very dry.
In the desert. All right.
Yeah. So it's all like cacti of various kinds that are all very sharp and trying to kill me always. And so I come back scraped all over. But it shuts my brain off, or not shuts, but it just uses a different part of me, right? I'm working with living creatures that have a completely different framework for survival than I do, that I don't even understand. It seems like magic half the time. And I just love that part of it, just being outside by myself with the plants. And then the thing that's the complete opposite of that is I just really like to go out to clubs and dance and just be crazy all night. So the quiet and the loud, those things I find very healing for me in equal measure. But then also writing is really helpful for me, and like just journaling. If I go too long without just sitting with my book and just scribbling, I start to feel it. I start to feel less grounded, less like myself. So when I'm my best, am doing that as a daily practice, usually in the morning with my coffee, and that I find that really helps.
So you said dancing and listening to loud music helps you relax. What's your favorite, I would say, genre of music to dance to release the most tension?
I like all sorts of things. I've been finding myself like really drawn towards like just the most raunchy electronic pop music you can think of. And I listen to it at the gym, and it'll be playing at the bar or whatever. And it's funny and silly and just, it makes me want to move my body. So
I get that.
Kim Petra stand.
So you mentioned that you write too as well. So I was saying, like I was talking to you during the break, I am a young writer myself, just started writing. How do you deal with writer's block when you are writing and you get to a place where you cannot it's like pen to paper, you cannot get it done? What are some ways that you help to break through that so that you let the creativity flow?
Yeah. So for me, writer's block is, I get writer's block when I lose confidence in myself. So, and that happens a lot with my writing. Something that I wrote today that I think is awesome, tomorrow morning, I will think is the biggest piece of trash. And I'll be so embarrassed that I even put it on paper. And then a week later, I'll be like, no, this is brilliant. And I have no consistency with that at all. So writer's block is on the days that I just lose all confidence in my ability. And so when I'm like that, which is too often, sometimes actually going back to things that I know I like that I've written and just like reminding myself that I can do it is helpful. Because I've been doing mostly short form things like poems and some short fiction, like bouncing between projects helps me too. So if I'm really stuck on one thing, I'll just open up something else. And yeah, I think that's it for tricks.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the other thing I'll do if I have time is I'll just sit with my journal and I'll be like, I have nothing to write. I just have nothing. My brain is a blank. And I will just force myself to sit there until something comes to me. And then I'll just write it down. And sometimes that'll just be like a memory or something that happened to me. It'll be very like diary style. But sometimes it's just like an idea or like a phrase or a couple words that like I like, and I'll just kind of riff on it. And that kind of gets me going.
Okay. I get that.
Would you like to share one of your poems?
Sure. Yeah, this one is an intense one that I want to share, but it really touches on some of the things we were talking about. I wrote a poem on October 7th, 2024, right? So a year after the genocide had begun and my life had changed a lot. And that was a really intense day, the anniversary, because I just kept reflecting on all the things that hadn't changed, all the things that had gotten worse, and trying to just reflect in the ways that I had changed and the struggle to keep hopeful and what this fight is all about. And it kind of started as a diary entry and then it turned into almost like a prose poem. So I'd be happy to read it for you.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of performing of my poetry, so hopefully I can do this in one take. We'll see. Okay, so yes. This poem is called Homework, and I wrote it on October 7th, 2024. For homework one time back in middle school, I interviewed my Oma about escaping Germany in 1939 with her 1-year-old baby, my father. I still have the old printout, and now I can't stop reading it, looking for answers that aren't there. Her final quote is, I have a family that I love, and he loves me. I'm happy, and the war is over. I bet my teacher gave me a good grade, but I wish kid me was a better interviewer because the war wasn't really over, was it? And I forgot to ask her which camps they died in, and now she's also dead. I never even asked her if she thought it could happen again or what to do if the next time they do it in my name. Mom isn't Jewish, and Dad grew up to be an atheist, so what does that even make me? Our blended family chose Christmas, but Dad said there will be no tree in this house. We invented new traditions. Instead of hanging glass ornaments on branches, we molded them by hand from white clay that you bake in the oven. We painted sloppy eyes on lumpy creatures and gave them names and hung them on strings that we taped to the mantel above the busted fireplace that we filled with supermarket poinsettias. Somebody please do the math for me and quantify how much luck was required back in 1939 to be able to fast forward half a century and manifest a child in the suburbs cutting snowflakes out of Post-it notes and hunting for presents hidden in cupboards, which was the game our family made up since we had no tree to put them under. It's absurd to me that I even exist, but I guess each human being is a product of uncertainty, random events, narrow escapes, chance meetings. At birth, the probability curve collapses into observable reality like quantum physics. I'm not smart enough to calculate the odds, but anyway, here I am. This was the year I put ambivalence aside and started calling myself a Jew without all the nervous caveats, while at the same time the most brutal empire in human history was funding the extermination of an entire people under the banner of my newly reclaimed identity. Also, this was the year I put my insecurities aside and started calling myself a poet, which is honestly a ridiculous thing to call myself when the real poets are being blown to pieces and buried in rubble by bombs I paid for with my taxes. I want to die as a whole, not in pieces, the little boy said to the reporter. What are made-up poems even good for if a single sentence from a real-life kid can crack me open like that? Did you know every human life is a universe? Judaism teaches us that. Save a life, save an entire world, they say. I mean, we say. My skull can only hold a few pieces of the horror at a time, but supposedly there's a whole universe crammed in there too, and it would spill right out on the concrete if someone cracked it open. I really want to know what's in there, but I never will, because they'd have to die for me or you to see it. I don't think a person should have to die for us to see their universe. Haven't we already spilled enough universes? How many tens of thousands will it take before we all agree we see starlight? However many pieces of this history I can hold today, or you can hold today, in our crowded little skulls, doesn't feel like enough, does it? It can never be enough, can it? But it has to be. Don't you see? It has to be enough, because if we try to hold on to it, all of it at once, we'll crack, and we can't crack now because, come on, my love, get up. It's time to fight. And that's what I wish I'd asked my Oma about in middle school, because for a new universe to be born, it takes a lot more than a bunch of luck and quantum physics. It takes more than love. It takes resistance.
That's so tremendous. Thank you for sharing that.
Beautiful.
I really love that. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And I will help you find a place to get that published.
I'd appreciate that.
No, I was just going to say that was very beautiful. And I hope I'm not overstepping, but I think your Oma is looking down smiling. And very, very, very definitely do feel that.
I hope so. I'm actually wearing a memento from her. She wore this every day of her life. It's like a little watch on a chain with a little amulet on the back. And I've had it since she died. And I wear it at times like this because it makes me feel connected to her and that whole story.
I love it. I love it.
That's so great. And thank you again for sharing that. We're kind of running out of time, but we want to get you some rapid fire.
Yeah.
Rapid fire questions. Yeah. Or to get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready to take the plunge?
Oof, I think so. Let's do it.
All right. So look at with
Okay.
these questions, I need you, Miguel. Don't think. Just say the first thing that pops in your head, even if it's crazy off the wall. We will edit that out later. Don't worry about it. Side note, we really won't.
Okay.
It'll be out there for everybody to hear. All right. So, first question. One song that is your go-to shower song. What do you belt when you are rub-a-dub-dub?
Oh my goodness. Anything by Ava Max. Love Ava Max.
Right?
Her recent song, Spot a Fake, is fucking awesome. I just cursed.
It's okay.
Yeah.
What's one quality you look for immediately in other people that you want to know?
Curiosity.
Okay. And let's say, what would you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered by?
Being part of a movement for liberation, being part of resistance, and not giving up.
What's a skill or a talent that you're proud of? No imposter syndrome.
I think I'm a good, how do I want to phrase this? I'm good with engaging in conflict, difficult conversations.
Okay. And when you are leaving that dance party at 3 a.m. after you done danced out all your sweat and nerves, what is your go-to comfort food? Because you know you got to go get something to eat after.
There's an awesome, I know I'm in LA, but there's an awesome New York style pizza place that delivers till 3 a.m. And in the Uber ride home, I'm on DoorDash ordering myself a pizza to show up at my door as I get home. And then I eat way too much of it before I pass out.
You could take the kid out of New York, but the New York driver out of the kid. I love it. I love it.
And kind of along those lines, I don't know if you're a cook or not, but what's a dish that you're great at making?
I am pretty awesome with pasta sauces of all kinds. So I can make a mean pesto, a mean marinara, anything along those lines. Yeah.
I'm coming over for pasta.
I love me some good pasta.
It's going to take a while.
Miguel, thank you so much for coming on today. We had such a wonderful time talking to you. I will say that. And I definitely love the poem that you recited. And before we do jet out of here and leave, I do want to ask two quick questions. How can we get involved with the Voices?
Jewish Voice for Peace. Yeah.
There you go. Praise the Lord. And what can we do to also help with encampment, people who are the unhoused?
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to housing policy and criminalization of homelessness across the country, wherever you are, I think the first thing you can do is develop relationships with your neighbors. right? If someone's living on the street, most of the time their house neighbors are ignoring them or calling the cops on them. So just don't be that person. I say that's the first thing you can do. And then connect with other people who are trying to decriminalize poverty in your city, because there's going to be groups that are doing that work. Find them, join them. They need your help. When it comes to Jewish Voice for Peace, there's chapters and pods all across the country. It's obviously a predominantly Jewish organization, but we have lots of non-Jewish comrades in the movement helping us as well. And so don't let that deter you. Just go to Jewish Voice for Peace's website, and there'll be lists of every entity in every state and city. And yeah, you can plug in that way. If that's not the right fit for you, there's so many groups working on Palestinian liberation right now. So, and they need your help as well.
Well, thank you for listening to us today. To our viewers, that's all the time that we have for our show today. One more question for Miguel. I know Miguel's probably like, Lord, will they stop asking me questions? They keep saying the show's about over. But Miguel, real quick, tell all our listeners, where can we come and find you? What are your social medias? Where can we engage with you as well?
I'm pretty much only using Instagram these days. And given what's going on with Meta, I don't even know how much longer I'm going to be on there. But for now, a lot of basically that's where all my poetry is, all of my writings in general, I post on my Instagram, and that's at @verse_daddy. So BERSE_daddy, DADDY.
I love that from all the way over here. I could see how you're blushing. That is so funny. That's amazing. Like,
I love it. That,
so great.
That takes me back in the day whenever people had Hotmail email, and then you would meet like really professional people, and it'd be like sexy red girl at Hotmail.com.
Totally.
Oh, that is so funny. I love it.
Yeah, so find me on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, I am your host, Mattie Bynum. You can find me at MattieSimone737 on Instagram, and also Mattie Bynum on Facebook.
And I'm Daniel W.K. Lee. You can find me on Instagram at Strong Plum. That's Strong PLUM. And on Blue Sky, I think I don't remember. So I'm trying to get off Meta, though. I'm trying to get off Meta. Yeah. So I want to thank our guest again, Miguel Camnitzer, for joining us today in today's fantastic conversation and sharing so much. Remember to subscribe and get your friends to subscribe to Power Beyond Pride wherever you get your podcasts, and check out our site at powerbeyondpride.com, as well as all of our socials.
Power Beyond Pride is a project from A Great Idea, a queer-owned design and content agency. Learn more about them at agreatidea.com. This episode is produced by Shane Lucas. Our project developer is Mika Sarka. Our editor is Jared Redding, and he is assisted by the wonderful Ian Wilson. We are both part of the podcast host team, me and Daniel, and we invite you to send in your questions and comments at powerbeyondpride.com. We look forward to queer change making with you at Power Beyond Pride.